Hello, I hope you're doing well. In this video, I want to share a shift in mindset that's helped me as an artist. I've recently focused a lot more on my art process rather than my art style. I've been figuring out what works best for me on my journey as a full-time artist, and hopefully this might help you to learn more about your art process. As you can see from the thumbnail, this isn't a how to find your art style video. I don't know about you, but I get really overwhelmed by the amount of how to find your art style videos out there. There's absolutely hundreds of them. I've also found that the advice in these how to find your art style videos has ended up overwhelming me more than actually helping me. One reason why I'm not the biggest fan of these videos is the fact that they say you can find your art style in a few easy steps, and I really don't think that's the case. I don't think that your art style is a definite end point, because your style is always evolving, and I think agonizing over finding this end point that doesn't really exist isn't going to enhance our artwork. Another piece of advice in these videos is to do lots of master copies. And while I do think this is a really great exercise to do, I don't think it necessarily helps you to find your art style on its own. The reason I say this is because I've done lots of master studies before, especially in high school, and the main criticism I'd get about my work is that it didn't have its own style. And I think that's because I like too many art styles and I get overwhelmed and I don't know which ones to incorporate into my work because there's so many of them, and I wasn't really focusing on what I truly wanted to do. So this leads me on to why I shifted my approach from trying to find an art style into figuring out my art process and what works best for me. Something that helped me to figure out this approach was a piece of advice in one of Kelsey Rodriguez's videos. I think that was her video on how to find your art style, and there is lots of great advice in there, but the main thing I took away from that video was that there's a difference between the art that you love and like to collect and the art that you enjoy making. This is all to do with your process, not just the finished product or style you end up with at a certain point in time. For example, I love really detailed artworks, and some abstract artworks and some in watercolour, but that doesn't mean that I find creating these enjoyable. Some artworks I love to look at, but to actually create them would be really tedious and I just wouldn't be having a good time. This actually reminds me of a Japanese concept called ikigai. My boyfriend was actually telling me about this a few weeks ago, and it really clicked some things into place. So the concept helps you to figure out your sense of purpose and reason for living. So it's kind of like a Venn diagram with different components. So they all meet in the middle, and that's how you figure out your purpose. So the different components are what you love, what the world needs, what you're good at, and what you can be paid for. I think it's really helpful to incorporate two of these components into your art process. So what do you love and what are you good at? This goes back to the point Kelsey made in her video. You might love a certain art style but hate creating it, or you might love a particular medium but you're not as skilled in that area. For example, I love pen drawings but I am terrible at them. It's something that I can practice and improve on, but I think figuring out what you love and what you're best at. So for me, that's acrylic painting is going to have the best results. I think it's important to ask yourself what your goals are as an artist and what kind of artist you are. These two things are really going to help you to figure out how to move forward. So for me, I am a full-time artist and I want to develop a more consistent portfolio. So this is going to change how I actually work. You might be a hobby artist that wants to try lots of different mediums. You might be an artist who's in galleries, who wants to make a big statement and work on a series. The reason I say this is because if you don't have a clear goal in mind, it's going to be really difficult to achieve the results that you want. So when I first went full-time a few months ago, I didn't ask myself these questions and I found it really overwhelming. I tried lots of different things, different mediums. I did portraits, I did fan art, I did wildlife art, trying to figure out what I actually wanted to do as an artist. And that's just part of the process. I'm not going to beat myself up because I didn't find my style within those months. I learned lots of really great techniques and figured out what I did and didn't like in that time, so it was important. But the thing that stressed me the most was that I would flip-flop between what I was doing. So my portfolio wasn't very consistent. It was kind of all over the place, so I'd have like a Grogu painting and then a portrait and then some birds and a sunset, and it kind of didn't mesh together, and that was stressing me out because trying to build your art career and build customers and followers, for me, I wanted to have more consistency on my page so people knew what I was about a little bit more. So my goal for the past month was to make my portfolio more consistent. I was actually inspired to work within a series based off a video I watched by Jacob Mark. If you haven't checked out his channel, go do so. He's really relaxing to watch and I love his landscape paintings. So he challenged himself to create 15 paintings in 30 days. This is just insane to me because I'm such a slow painter. But I really liked the idea of a challenge and working towards a deadline. So for me, as you can see in this video, I mainly chose birds to paint. I stuck with a green colour palette and the overall theme was springtime. There are 2 other paintings in this series as well, and they are in my 2 previous videos if you want to have a look at them. But I'm really happy with the result, and I've created a lot more paintings in the space of a month than I usually would, mainly because they're smaller, but I think that working in a series made me more relaxed because I knew where I was going. I had a bit of a path carved out, rather than when I've worked on individual paintings and then there's a big gap in between each one because I don't know what I'm doing. And that was partly because I was fretting about my art style, but this has worked so much better for me. Working on a group of paintings and knowing the direction your artwork is going in, definitely more relaxing for me. The main takeaway from this was that working in a series for me makes me a lot more consistent and more productive, and from that I felt a lot better with my artwork and myself as an artist. A massive part of my art process is to actually take the time to be inspired, and that's why I make sure to go outside, take photographs and videos of different animals and plants, and just enjoy nature, because it really gives me a creative boost when I come back to work, and I just feel really energized after spending that time away from my desk and reminding myself why I do this in the first place. Like I said, nature's really inspiring to me. So whatever it is that inspires you, I think it's really important to put the paintbrush, pencil, pen down and get back out there. The last thing I'm going to touch on in this video is the actual technique that you use when it comes to painting or drawing, however you create. Recently I've just seen a lot of videos kind of telling people what to do, and I don't like being told what to do. I don't even like it when I tell myself what to do, let alone other people on the internet. So I think it's really important to stay true to yourself and true to what works best for you, even if other people are telling you that it's not the best way to do things. An example I can think of off the top of my head is that many artists have advised against sort of rendering things too quickly, but that's exactly how I like to work. So as you can see, I'm going straight in and trying to cram a fair amount of detail into the first pass. I still work in layers, so the first layer isn't going to be like mega detailed, but having something that's pretty detailed already just gives me a confidence boost when I come back to work on it some more. So many artists suggest that you should block in the bigger shapes and then add details a lot later, and this really does work for a lot of people, and it might work best for you. So if it does, do make sure to keep that in your art process. But for me, it just doesn't work. I've tried it because people would say in videos and online and posts that if you don't do this, you're doing it wrong. I tried it and it made my art process pretty stressful. It's just not how I like to work. As I said, I prefer to do things pretty detailed early on, and it might seem a bit backwards to other people, but this is what works best for me, and I'm going to stay true to that and carry on with this technique in my art process. With everything that's been said in this video, please remember that it's my opinion at the end of the day, and you should do what works best for you. Don't take anything I've said here as fact. I really don't want to tell people what to do. I think finding your art process is a really individual thing. We all have our unique ways of doing things, and it is going to take a fair amount of time. I don't think it's an overnight thing. I don't think it's like these how to find your art style videos that say you can do it in 3 steps. It's the same with your art process. It's a lot of trial and error and seeing what works and doesn't work. But I hope this helped. If it did, please consider subscribing or following me on my Instagram or TikTok. Every follow, like, share really does count. And one last thing just before I go, all the paintings in this video as well as my last 2 paintings are available on my website www.craftingmoonlight.com, as well as fine art prints of each piece. So if you want to have a look, here it is. I'm also offering commissions, and I've recently started doing pet portraits. If this is something that you're interested in, I have a page all about it, and that's right here. So make sure to have a look at that. It's got all the information about what I offer, the pricing, the process of how it all works, and the delivery. And one last note, if you join my mailing list, you can get discounts and exclusive access to original pieces. And yeah, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.